You ever find yourself staring at an algebra problem and just think, why X? I mean, of all the letters in the alphabet, how did X become the symbol for the unknown? Well, it turns out it's not an accident. In this explainer, we're going to solve this 4,000-year-old mystery. And trust me, the answer is way cooler than you might think.
Right? It's everywhere. X is the universal symbol for a mystery, whether it's on your math homework or in a top-secret recipe. But how in the world did it get that job? The journey to X is this incredible story of language, of lost translations, and honestly, a little bit of luck. To really get it, we need to go way back to a time when math had no symbols at all.
So, imagine trying to do math like this. Thousands of years ago, problems were written out as full sentences. No plus sign, no minus sign, and definitely no x. What you're looking at here is how an ancient Egyptian scribe would have written the equation x plus 1/7 x equals 19. I mean, yeah, it gets the job done, but wow, what a mouthful, right?
And that kind of clunky, word-based approach brings us to our first chapter, a world of math without letters. You see, the biggest challenge for early mathematicians was super simple, but also huge. How do you even talk about a number you don't know yet?
The ancient Egyptian solution? They just gave the unknown a name, aha, which literally means a thing or something. So they weren't using a symbol, but more of a placeholder word. It was a really important first step. They were naming the mystery, but math was still kind of stuck being written out the long way. Okay, this slide really shows the massive leap forward. On the left, you've got how the great 9th century Persian mathematician al-Khwarizmi, the guy who literally gave us algebra, would write an equation. He still used a word for the unknown, shay, which is just Arabic for thing. And on the right, well, that's our clean, modern version. The difference is just night and day. It really shows you how much power one little symbol can have. Al-Khwarizmi's work on algebra was absolutely revolutionary. It spread all across the globe and changed math forever. But his system, as amazing as it was, still had a missing piece. It needed an elegant symbol to replace the word shay. The world was basically just waiting for a shortcut. And that shortcut finally arrived in Europe during the Renaissance. This was the first great leap, the incredible shift from a language of words to a language of symbols. Scholars were starting to build a truly universal way to do math. A huge breakthrough came from this French mathematician, François Viet. He came up with a simple but really powerful system. Just use letters. His rule was to use vowels like A or E for the unknown values you're trying to find and consonants like B or C for the known ones you already have. This was a total game changer. For the first time ever, mathematicians could write general formulas that described whole patterns, not just one single specific problem.
So, here's where we are on our journey. We started with aha in ancient Egypt, we moved to shay in 9th century Persia, and then we saw the birth of symbolic variables with Viet. And that brings us right to the final step, and to the man who made X famous, René Descartes.
And here we are, at the very heart of the mystery. We've got our main suspect, René Descartes. We've got the time and the place. All we need now is the motive. Why X?
So, in 1637, the philosopher and mathematician René Descartes publishes his incredible work, La Géométrie. And in it, he used the first letters of the alphabet, A, B, C, for numbers he already knew, and the last letters, X, Y, and Z, for the ones he didn't. And for whatever reason, that convention just stuck. But the big question remains, why those specific letters?
So why X? Well, historians have two leading theories. The first one is pretty practical. They call it the printer's box theory. The story goes that the guy printing Descartes' book just had tons of extra X's lying around, because it's one of the least used letters in French. A simple, practical choice. But the second theory, the lost translation, that one's my personal favorite.
This theory is just so cool. So remember al-Khwarizmi's word shay? Well, when Spanish scholars were translating his work, they hit a snack. They didn't have a letter for the sha sound. Their solution? They borrowed the Greek letter chi, which, looks exactly like an X. Over time, this got Latinized to just X. And eventually, you can imagine scribes getting lazy and shortening the written word shay to just its first letter. So it's totally possible that by the time Descartes was writing, X was already floating around as a kind of shorthand for the thing. So whether it was the printer's box or a lost translation, X found its home. But beyond the history, which is fascinating, why does any of this even matter? What did this simple idea of a variable actually unlock for us? Because it lets us do this.
This simple little formula, earnings equals 15 times hours, isn't just about one paycheck. It describes a universal rule. It works if you work for 1 hour or 100 hours. Variables let us capture the fundamental patterns of the world, everything from physics to finance, in this incredibly concise and powerful way.
I mean, think about that. Every single time you solve for x, you are participating in a 4,000-year-old conversation. From an Egyptian scribe carefully writing a thing to a modern programmer defining a variable, the goal has always been the same: to harness the power of the unknown to make sense of our world.
And while X gets all the glory, the idea it represents is kind of like a container that can hold any idea you want. It can be T for time and physics, P for price and economics, or N for the number of items in computer science. The letter itself changes, but that powerful idea of a placeholder for a value, that stays the same.
And that brings us to the final and maybe the most interesting part of X's legacy. It's a symbol so powerful that it actually escaped from the world of mathematics and planted itself right into our everyday culture as the ultimate symbol for mystery. Just think about it for a second. Every time you hear X marks the spot, or someone talks about a performer having that X factor, you're hearing the echo of this ancient mathematical quest. X has become so much more than a letter. It's a whole cultural concept. It represents the treasure we're looking for, the truth waiting to be seen, and the potential that's yet to be unlocked. From an Egyptian scribe's aha to the equations that launch rockets into space, the story of X is really the story of human curiosity itself. It's this tiny, humble symbol for our greatest quest to turn the unknown into the known. It really makes you wonder, what mystery will X help us solve next?